The year is 1346. Europe thrives. A continent bathed in the golden light of faith. From the Emerald Isle to the distant steppes of Russia, life moves at the pace of seasons. The Catholic Church, a beacon of power and certainty, guides the faithful. Its cathedrals, towering monuments to God, pierce the sky. Within their walls, prayers echo, seeking solace and salvation. Life, though harsh, holds a simple rhythm. Farmers till the land, their backs bent under the weight of tradition. Blacksmiths hammer iron, their anvils ringing out the day's labor. In the heart of bustling cities, merchants hawk their wares, their voices a vibrant tapestry of commerce. It is a world on the cusp of change, unaware of the storm gathering on the horizon, unknowing of the darkness that will soon engulf all they hold dear. Europe, 1347, a continent on the brink of cataclysm. The whispers of a strange malady first reached the ears of merchants and sailors. Murmurs of a pestilence sweeping across the east. Tales of bustling cities silenced, transformed into ghost towns. Few paid heed. Such rumors were the currency of travelers, spun into fantastical yarns in smoke-filled taverns. Life, after all, went on. The trade routes, arteries of commerce and culture, pulsed with their usual vibrancy. Ships laden with silks and spices from the Orient sailed into bustling ports. Unwittingly, they carried a far more sinister cargo. Hidden amongst the grain sacks and tea chests, a silent menace lurked. Fleas, carriers of a deadly plague, had found their way aboard. They scurried through the holds, feasting on unsuspecting rats. The rats, in turn, would carry the disease inland, their movements swift and silent. At first the signs were easy to dismiss, a sailor falling ill in Messina, a merchant's daughter struck down in Genoa, isolated incidents explained away as bad air or spoiled food. But the whispers persisted, they grew louder, more insistent. The plague, like a malevolent wind, was picking up speed. It moved through the crowded cities, unseen, unstoppable. Soon the whispers turned to screams. The isolated incidents became a flood. The Black Death had arrived in Europe. The Black Death, a relentless predator, tightened its grip on Europe. Its arrival was heralded not by trumpets or the roar of cannons, but by a chilling silence, a stillness that settled over once bustling cities, broken only by the groans of the afflicted. The air, thick with the stench of death, carried the sweet, sickly scent of decay. The first sign, a subtle swelling, a tender point beneath the arm or on the neck. A bubo, they called it, an ominous harbinger of the horrors to come. Fever followed, a raging inferno that consumed the body from within. Chills racked the frame, alternating with drenching sweats. The skin, once vibrant, took on a ghastly purplish hue. Death, when it came, offered little solace. For some it was swift, a merciful release from the torment. For others it lingered, a slow and agonizing descent into madness. Their minds, ravaged by fever, conjured visions of demons and devils. Their cries, once pleas for help, became incoherent babble. The plague spared no one. Rich or poor, young or old, all were equal in its sight. The very air seemed to crackle with fear. The laughter of children, once a symphony of innocence, was replaced by the hushed whispers of the dying. The world had become a living nightmare. The Black Death gnawed at the very foundations of faith. This catastrophic plague, sweeping across continents, left a trail of devastation in its wake. It was not just the bodies that piled up, but the very essence of belief that began to erode. The once unshakable faith in divine protection was now riddled with doubt and fear. The church, once a beacon of hope, now seemed powerless against this invisible enemy. The clergy, who had always been seen as intermediaries between God and man, found themselves helpless. Their prayers and rituals, which had once brought comfort and solace, now seemed futile. The faithful looked to their leaders for answers, but found only uncertainty and fear. Its rituals, once sources of comfort, rang hollow in the face of such suffering. The grand ceremonies, the solemn masses, all felt like empty gestures. The incense that once symbolized the prayers of the faithful rising to heaven now seemed to mock their desperation. The hymns that once uplifted spirits now echoed in empty halls, a haunting reminder of the lives lost. The faithful, accustomed to finding solace in prayer, now cried out in despair as their loved ones succumbed to the plague. Families gathered in their homes praying fervently for deliverance, but their prayers went unanswered. The sight of entire families being wiped out was a common one, and the survivors were left to grapple with their grief and their shaken faith. The heavens, it seemed, offered no answers. The skies, once seen as the realm of the divine, were now dark and foreboding. The people looked up, searching for a sign, a miracle, but found only storm clouds and the relentless march of the plague. The sense of abandonment was palpable, and the once unshakable belief in divine intervention was now a distant memory. Doubt spread like wildfire, consuming the hearts of men and women alike. Had God abandoned them? This question echoed in the minds of the faithful as they watched their world crumble around them. The once strong pillars of faith were now weakened, and the sense of community that had been built around the church was now fractured. People began to question everything they had once held dear. Were their sins so great that they deserved this fate? The idea that the plague was a punishment for sins became a common belief. People turned to acts of penance, hoping to appease an angry God. Flagellants roamed the streets, whipping themselves in a desperate attempt to show their repentance. Confessionals were filled with people seeking absolution, but the plague continued its relentless advance. The priests, themselves terrified, offered only platitudes and empty promises. They were as human as the rest, and the fear in their eyes was evident. They tried to maintain a facade of calm and assurance, but their own doubts and fears often betrayed them. The faithful, looking to their spiritual leaders for guidance, found only men as lost and afraid as they were. Their incantations and holy water proved useless against the plague's relentless advance. The rituals that had once been seen as powerful tools of divine intervention now seemed impotent. The holy water, the blessings, the prayers, none of it could stop the spread of the disease. The realization that their faith could not protect them was a devastating blow to the people. The plague, it seemed, respected neither piety nor rank. Nobles and peasants alike fell victim to its grasp. The disease did not discriminate, and the sight of the highborn and the lowborn suffering together was a stark reminder of the plague's indiscriminate nature. The social hierarchies that had once seemed so important were now meaningless in the face of such widespread death. It stalked the hallowed halls of cathedrals with the same ease it did the slums. The grand cathedrals, once seen as sanctuaries, were now filled with the sick and dying. The disease spread through the crowded slums and the spacious cathedrals alike, showing no preference. The contrast between the opulence of the cathedrals and the squalor of the slums was stark, but the plague did not care. The ornate cathedrals, once symbols of God's power, became tombs. The very buildings that had been constructed to honor the divine were now filled with the dead. The churchyards overflowed with graves, and the cathedrals themselves became places of mourning. The sight of these grand structures now serving as tombs was a powerful symbol of the shattering of faith. Their incense-laden air, once fragrant with hope, now reeked of death. The smell of incense, once a comforting presence in the church, was now mingled with the stench of decay. The air, thick with the smoke of burning incense, seemed to mock the faithful. The very symbols of their faith were now reminders of their suffering and loss. The tolling of church bells, once a call to prayer, now served as a constant reminder of the relentless march of death. Each toll was a reminder of another life lost, another soul gone. The sound, once a source of comfort, was now a harbinger of doom. The bells, which had once called the faithful to worship, now marked the passage of the dead. Each toll, a hammer blow against the already crumbling edifice of faith. The sound of the bells echoing through the empty streets was a constant reminder of the fragility of life and the seeming impotence of faith. The once strong walls of belief were now crumbling, and each toll of the bell was a reminder of that slow collapse. The Black Death had exposed a terrible truth. In the face of such unimaginable suffering, even the mightiest institutions could crumble. The grand churches, the powerful clergy, all were powerless against the plague. The realization that their faith could not protect them was a devastating blow to the people. The once unshakable belief in the power of the church was now shattered. The world, once ordered and comprehensible, had descended into chaos. The streets, once bustling with life, were now filled with the dead and dying. The social order, once so rigid, was now in disarray. The sense of community, once so strong, was now fractured. The world as they knew it was falling apart, and there seemed to be no end in sight. The old certainties had vanished, leaving behind only fear, doubt, and the chilling spectre of death. The once strong pillars of faith and community were now crumbling, and the people were left to navigate a world filled with uncertainty and fear. The Black Death had not only taken lives, but it had also taken the very essence of what it meant to be human. The shattering of faith was complete, and the world would never be the same again. The Black Death receded. Like a malevolent tide, it ebbed, leaving behind a landscape scarred and broken. Gone were the sounds of laughter and commerce, replaced by an eerie silence, heavy with the weight of unburied dead. The air, once thick with the smells of life, now carried the acrid tang of decay. The Black Death, in its passing, had not merely taken lives. It had devoured the very fabric of society, leaving behind a world reeling in shock and disbelief. The once familiar rhythms of life, the cycle of seasons, the tolling of church bells now seemed alien, out of sync with the shattered reality. Fields lay fallow, untended, workshops stood silent, their tools abandoned. The world, once teeming with purpose and industry, now seemed frozen in a macabre tableau of death and decay. The survivors, haunted by the horrors they had witnessed, emerged from their homes like ghosts, their eyes hollow, their movements mechanical. The joy had been drained from their faces, replaced by a weary acceptance of a world forever changed. They moved through the ruins of their lives, searching for meaning in the ashes. The Black Death had tested the limits of human endurance. It had pushed men and women to the brink of madness, forcing them to confront their own mortality in the most brutal way imaginable. And yet, amidst the ruins, a glimmer of hope persisted. The human spirit, though battered, refused to be extinguished. Silence. An oppressive, deafening silence had descended upon the land. The once familiar sounds of medieval life, the clatter of carts, the rhythmic clang of the blacksmith's hammer, the joyous shouts of children at play, had all been swallowed by the abyss of death. This silence was not the peace of slumber, but a haunting testament to the millions vanished. Even the birds seemed to have deserted the skies, their cheerful songs replaced by a mournful wind whistling through the empty streets and empty homes. Doorways, once welcoming entrances to bustling households, now gaped open like vacant eyes, revealing the emptiness within. The silence amplified the sense of loss, making the world feel vast, empty, and unbearably lonely. The silence was most unbearable in the places where life had once been most vibrant. The bustling marketplaces, now deserted, echoed with the ghosts of bartering vendors and gossiping housewives. The grand cathedrals, once filled with the sonorous chants of monks and the devout whispers of parishioners, stood eerily empty, their vaulted ceilings amplifying the silence. The absence of life was palpable, a constant reminder of the plague's devastating toll. This silence, however, was not merely the absence of sound, it was a scream of unimaginable loss, of shattered dreams, of a world irrevocably broken. It was a silence that spoke volumes about the fragility of life, the capricious nature of fate, and the enduring power of death. The survivors walked among the ruins like ghosts themselves. Their faces, etched with grief and exhaustion, bore the weight of unimaginable loss. They moved with a newfound hesitancy, as if unsure of the very ground beneath their feet. The world they knew, the world of their childhoods, of their parents and grandparents, was gone, erased by the plague's relentless hand. Memories once comforting now surfaced like phantom pains. The laughter of loved ones, the warmth of shared meals, the simple joys of daily life, all amplified the aching void left behind. They carried these memories like precious burdens, bittersweet reminders of a world that no longer existed. Everywhere they looked, they saw ghosts. Ghosts in the empty cradles, ghosts in the silent workshops, ghosts in the vacant eyes of those who had managed to survive. The line between the living and the dead seemed blurred, as if the plague had thinned the veil separating the two realms. The world itself seemed haunted, imbued with the presence of the departed. The very air hummed with their absence, a constant reminder of the fragility of life and the enduring power of death. The survivors moved through this spectral landscape, forever marked by the experience, forever changed. The Black Death shattered more than just lives. It shattered the established order. The intricate web of feudal obligations, binding peasant to lord for centuries, lay in tatters. The fields, once tilled by generations of the same families, lay fallow, their owners gone. The plague had upset the balance of power, creating ripples of change that would reshape the social landscape of Europe. The scarcity of labor, a consequence of the massive death toll, empowered those who had survived. Peasants, once bound to the land by birth and tradition, found themselves in high demand. They could now demand higher wages, better working conditions, even their freedom from the shackles of serfdom. The Black Death, in its cruel irony, had sown the seeds of social mobility. The Church, too, found its authority weakened. Its inability to explain or halt the plague's devastation shook the very foundations of faith. The people, accustomed to looking to the Church for guidance and solace, now questioned its teachings, its rituals, its very legitimacy. The seeds of doubt, sown by fear and despair, would eventually blossom into the Reformation. The Black Death had exposed the vulnerability of the old order. It had revealed the cracks in the edifice of power, cracks that had been widening for years but had been ignored or suppressed. The plague, in its wake, left behind a world in flux, a world ripe for change. Amidst the devastation, seeds of change were being sown. The Black Death, in its wake, had created a vacuum, one that would be filled by new ideas, new social structures, and a renewed appreciation for the preciousness of life. The world rebuilding from the ashes would be vastly different from the one that had preceded it. The decimation of the population led to a surplus of land and resources. Those who survived found themselves with opportunities previously unimaginable. New industries emerged, fueled by innovation and a desire to rebuild what had been lost. The seeds of the Renaissance, a period of unparalleled artistic, scientific and cultural flourishing, were being planted in the fertile ground of post-plague Europe. The trauma of the Black Death also fostered a newfound appreciation for life's simple pleasures. Art and literature reflected this shift, embracing themes of beauty, love and the human experience. The macabre imagery of the plague years gave way to vibrant colors, celebrating the resilience of the human spirit. The Black Death, though a tragedy of unimaginable proportions, ultimately proved to be a catalyst for profound change. It shattered the old order, challenged long-held beliefs, and paved the way for a new era. The world that emerged from the plague's shadow was one forever marked by loss, but also one brimming with possibility, innovation, and a renewed sense of hope. The Black Death, a haunting echo from the past, continues to reverberate through the corridors of time. It stands as a stark reminder of the fragility of human existence, the capricious nature of fate, and the devastating power of disease. The images of plague-ridden cities, mass graves, and deserted villages, though centuries old, retain their power to shock and horrify. The stories of the Black Death, passed down through generations, serve as cautionary tales. They remind us of the importance of vigilance, of the need for scientific understanding and the interconnectedness of human society. The plague, in its indiscriminate reach, demonstrated that disease knows no boundaries, respects no social hierarchies, and can swiftly unravel the fabric of civilization. Yet, the story of the Black Death is not merely one of despair and devastation. It is also a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. From the ashes of unimaginable suffering, a new world emerged, a world forever changed, but also one filled with new possibilities. The Black Death, in its aftermath, forced humanity to confront its own mortality, to re-evaluate its priorities, and to forge a new path forward. The echoes of that transformative period continue to shape our world today, reminding us that even in the face of unimaginable darkness, the human spirit endures. The legacy of the Black Death is multifaceted and enduring. This catastrophic event, which swept through Europe in the mid-14th century, left an indelible mark on the continent's history. It was not just a period of immense suffering and death, but also a time of significant transformation and adaptation. The Black Death's impact can be seen in various aspects of life, from art and literature to medicine and societal structures. It left an indelible mark on art, literature, medicine, and the very structure of society. The sheer scale of the devastation forced people to confront their mortality in ways they had never done before. This confrontation with death and the unknown found expression in the art and literature of the time. Artists and writers grappled with themes of suffering, loss, and the fleeting nature of life, creating works that continue to resonate with us today. The plague, in its wake, spurred advancements in public health, challenged religious dogma, and fueled social and economic change. Public health measures, rudimentary by today's standards, began to take shape as communities sought to understand and control the spread of the disease. Quarantines, isolation of the sick, and the establishment of pest houses were some of the early attempts to manage the crisis. These measures laid the groundwork for modern public health practices. In the realm of art, the Black Death gave rise to a fascination with death and the macabre. This period saw the emergence of the danse macabre, or dance of death, a motif that depicted skeletons leading the living to their graves. Such imagery served as a stark reminder of the inevitability of death and the transient nature of earthly life. Artists like Peter Bruegel the Elder captured the somber mood of the times in their works, which continue to be studied and admired for their depth and poignancy. Paintings, sculptures, and literary works explored themes of mortality, suffering, and the transient nature of life. The literature of the period, including works like Giovanni Boccaccio's The Decameron, provided a vivid account of the human experience during the plague. These stories, often dark and reflective, offered a glimpse into the fears, hopes, and resilience of people living through one of history's most harrowing times. This artistic response, though rooted in tragedy, ultimately served as a form of catharsis, allowing people to process the trauma of the plague and find meaning in the face of death. The collective mourning and reflection helped communities to heal and rebuild, fostering a sense of shared experience and solidarity. The Church played a significant role in this process, offering spiritual solace and a framework for understanding the calamity within the context of faith. The Black Death also spurred advancements in medicine. The sheer scale of the epidemic exposed the limitations of contemporary medical knowledge and practices, prompting a re-evaluation of existing theories and methods. Physicians and scholars began to place greater emphasis on empirical observation and experimentation, seeking to understand the nature of the disease and develop more effective treatments. The plague's devastating impact exposed the limitations of contemporary medical knowledge and practices, leading to a renewed emphasis on observation, experimentation, and the search for effective treatments. This period saw the beginnings of a more scientific approach to medicine, with a focus on understanding the causes of illness and developing practical remedies. Apothecaries and physicians began to document their findings, laying the groundwork for future medical advancements. While a cure for the plague remained elusive for centuries, the seeds of modern medicine were sown during this period of intense crisis. The establishment of medical schools and the proliferation of medical texts contributed to the gradual accumulation of knowledge that would eventually lead to significant breakthroughs in the understanding and treatment of diseases. The Black Death, in this sense, acted as a catalyst for the evolution of medical science. Perhaps the most profound legacy of the Black Death was its impact on social and economic structures. The massive loss of life led to a shortage of labor, empowering the peasantry and weakening the grip of feudalism. This shift in the balance of power had far-reaching consequences, as it disrupted the traditional hierarchies and paved the way for new social dynamics. The massive loss of life led to a shortage of labor, empowering the peasantry and weakening the grip of feudalism. With fewer workers available, those who survived found themselves in a stronger bargaining position. They could demand better wages and working conditions, leading to a gradual erosion of the feudal system. This newfound empowerment of the lower classes contributed to the rise of a more market-driven economy. This shift in power dynamics paved the way for the emergence of a more market-driven economy and the growth of cities. As feudalism declined, trade and commerce began to flourish, leading to the expansion of urban centers. Cities became hubs of economic activity and cultural exchange, setting the stage for the Renaissance and the eventual rise of the modern world. The Black Death, though a period of unimaginable suffering, ultimately served as a catalyst for profound and lasting change. It forced societies to adapt and innovate in response to the challenges they faced. The resilience and ingenuity displayed during this time of crisis laid the foundation for many of the advancements that would follow in the centuries to come. It reshaped the social, economic, and intellectual landscape of Europe, laying the groundwork for the Renaissance and the modern world. The Black Death's legacy is a testament to the human capacity for resilience and transformation in the face of adversity. It serves as a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is potential for growth and renewal. The Black Death serves as a haunting reminder of the ever-present threat of infectious diseases. This catastrophic event, which decimated nearly a third of Europe's population in the 14th century, left an indelible mark on human history. The sheer scale of the devastation, the speed at which the disease spread, and the profound societal changes it triggered are a testament to the vulnerability of human societies to microscopic threats. The Black Death was not just a medical crisis, it was a social, economic, and cultural upheaval that reshaped the world in ways that are still felt today. Though centuries have passed since the plague ravaged Europe, the potential for pandemics remains a stark reality. The remnants of once thriving villages and towns, now reduced to ruins, stand as silent witnesses to the horrors of the past. These ghostly landscapes remind us that the threat of infectious diseases has never truly disappeared. Modern medicine and technology have advanced significantly, yet the fundamental challenge of combating infectious diseases remains. The spectre of pandemics continues to loom large, a reminder that history can repeat itself if we are not vigilant. The emergence of new and deadly pathogens, coupled with the ease of global travel and trade, means that a disease outbreak anywhere in the world can quickly escalate into a global crisis. In today's interconnected world, a virus can traverse continents in a matter of hours, carried by the very networks that facilitate our global economy. Crowded city streets, bustling airports, and intricate trade routes are not just symbols of progress, they are also potential conduits for the rapid spread of disease. The global nature of modern society means that no nation is immune to the threat of pandemics. The lessons learned from the Black Death are as relevant today as they were in the 14th century. The eerie images of plague doctors clad in their distinctive beaked masks serve as a stark reminder of the desperate measures taken to combat the disease. These early attempts at infection control, though primitive by today's standards, laid the groundwork for modern public health practices. The writings and observations of medieval scholars, meticulously recorded on parchment, provide valuable insights into the nature of pandemics and the human response to them. The importance of public health measures, such as sanitation, quarantine, and early detection and treatment of disease, cannot be overstated. During the Black Death, cities that implemented strict quarantine measures and improved sanitation practices fared better than those that did not. These early public health interventions, though rudimentary, were crucial in slowing the spread of the disease. Today we have a much deeper understanding of the mechanisms of disease transmission, yet the basic principles of infection control remain unchanged. Sanitation, quarantine, and timely medical intervention are still our best defenses against the spread of infectious diseases. International cooperation and the sharing of scientific knowledge are crucial in combating the spread of infectious diseases. The global response to pandemics requires a coordinated effort, transcending national borders and political differences. Scientists and health professionals from around the world must work together, sharing data, resources, and expertise to develop effective strategies for disease prevention and control. The historical trade maps, once used to track the movement of goods, now serve as a reminder of the importance of global collaboration in the fight against infectious diseases. The COVID-19 pandemic, which swept the globe in the early 21st century, served as a stark reminder of the vulnerability of human society to infectious diseases. The eerie images of empty city streets once bustling with activity and the long lines at testing sites are a testament to the profound impact of the pandemic on daily life. The widespread use of masks and other protective measures highlighted the importance of individual and collective action in controlling the spread of disease. The COVID-19 pandemic underscored the need for preparedness, rapid response, and the resilience of public health systems. The pandemic, in its global reach and devastating impact, echoed the horrors of the Black Death, highlighting the importance of preparedness, swift action, and a coordinated global response. The side-by-side comparison of medieval plague art and modern COVID-19 visuals serves as a powerful reminder of the enduring threat of infectious diseases. The global pandemic animation and the images of emergency response teams in action illustrate the scale and complexity of the response required to combat such crises. The lessons of the past, combined with the advancements of the present, provide a roadmap for navigating future pandemics. As we move forward, it is imperative that we remember the lessons of the past. The historical timeline animation tracing the evolution of pandemics through the ages underscores the cyclical nature of these events. The meticulous writings of medieval scholars, preserved through the centuries, offer valuable insights into the human experience of pandemics. Modern-day scientists, building on this legacy of knowledge, continue to push the boundaries of medical science in the quest to understand and control infectious diseases. The past and present are inextricably linked in this ongoing battle against microscopic threats. The Black Death, a chilling chapter in human history, serves as a cautionary tale, urging us to remain vigilant, to invest in public health infrastructure, and to work together to mitigate the threat of future pandemics. The images of medieval villages in distress, juxtaposed with scenes of modern public health workers in action, highlight the continuity of the human struggle against disease. The historical plague doctor with his distinctive mask stands as a symbol of the enduring challenge of combating infectious diseases. The lessons of the Black Death are as relevant today as they were centuries ago, reminding us of the importance of preparedness and collective action. Only through a combination of scientific advancement, international cooperation, and a deep respect for the lessons of history can we hope to prevent such tragedies from recurring. The images of scientists researching in modern labs, participating in international conferences, and the medieval manuscripts with plague art serve as a visual representation of the interconnectedness of past and present. The fight against infectious diseases is a global endeavor, requiring the collective efforts of individuals, communities, and nations. By learning from the past and embracing the advancements of the present, we can build a more resilient future, capable of withstanding the challenges of tomorrow.